Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cosplay Crunch Season 2. Cannot believe we made it to a second season. Cannot believe we haven't been canceled or shut down. It's truly incredible that we made it this far, and I just have to say thank you. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening. We have a really, really exciting season. I have so many people from the US, from across the world. We have old friends, we have new friends, we have strangers. Ooh. And I'm so ready to get into it. But let me, as you know, go through our intro. So, each week, we gather to talk all things cosplay and conventions, from personal experiences, useful tips and advice, horror stories and hot takes, and sometimes the latest news and drama. We have it all. I am your host, Savage Cosplay, and this episode we are joined by my good Judy, my cyber bully victim, Stitch Crimes. Welcome, Sammi.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. After listening to the first season, I'm just like, I get to be here now on the other side. Very exciting.
Unfortunately for you. No, I'm so happy that you're here. I was like, okay, who do I think of to kick off this season 2 with me? No one but Sammi, but also I feel like it's a long time coming. Actually, I was told I couldn't believe that Sammi wasn't even on the last season. And I'm like, we had to warm up the pot before she could get in.
Yeah, Stitch Crimes Handler is also sad about not being included in the first season, so
Oh my gosh, we'll get him on season 4, maybe. Maybe we'll come on. No,
down the line.
Exactly. Well, you know what they say? It's like you have to boil the pot. You have to put the lobster in a boiling pot. It can't be in a lukewarm pot. So that's what I'm doing with you. We just got to throw you in once it's simmering. Exactly.
Right in the deep end.
Hopefully. Yeah, it's just crazy. So honest opinion, did you think that this podcast would make it to a second season?
I mean, I did because, I feel like cosplayers have a lot to talk about and just, so much tea to spill. So I feel like there's just a lot to cover. And with you, I feel like anytime anyone gets with you, it's just like things are about to go down. Like, you are the perfect person to host. Like, you get people talking.
Get people talking.
Yeah, anytime we're together at a con, it's like an hour before we part ways. It's bad. We're just in the artist alley stuck.
I mean, I do like a conversation. However, I've never incited anyone to say anything they didn't want to say on their own. So I'll just leave it at that. But no, I mean, honestly, I was excited to hopefully have future seasons. I wasn't sure. I knew that I would hopefully want to keep going, and after the first season it was so much fun. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I think people enjoyed it enough that over the point of this past summer, I've actually been so lucky and thankful. People have come up to me in like random places at conventions and been like, "Oh, I love the podcast," and I'm like, you listen to this program?
Yeah, I remember that happened at A-Fest, right? While we were giving our panel, someone mentioned the podcast. It's like, wow, it's gone out of its bounds.
It's
people
so crazy.
We don't, yeah.
I know. Okay, so we're going to start this off how we start off a lot of these episodes, which is talking about cosplay beginnings. Now, you've been cosplaying for how many years at this point?
11 years.
Same. So, we're twins there. I remember that. So, how did you even get into cosplay? What even made you aware that cosplay is something you could do?
Yeah, so I didn't even know about anime, and honestly, the only video game I ever played as a kid was Animal Crossing. So I was very much not in the nerd spaces initially until I was in 7th grade, and I had this friend group that was really into anime, so they got me to watch Soul Eater, and I was a very try hard, bookish, really doing too much in school kid, so I really identified with Maka. And then we learned about, of course, Anime Matsuri 2013, and I'm like, I have to be Maka. And I didn't know about Wigs, so I
No
cut
one
my
knew, no
hair.
one knew about wigs. I didn't know
No.
about I did not know a wig was a thing that you could actually put on your body. I didn't
Mm-mm.
the concept of wigs was so far gone that we just resorted to other matters. So continue.
Yeah, no, but I was like, I have to be this character. And so I decided to cut bangs into my hair because I just had long blonde hair at the time. And I have kept bangs for the 11 years since then. That was the inception.
Are you serious?
Yes, yes, to be Maka Albarn. And then we just like thrifted a bunch of stuff, and this is another problematic sign of the times. Took like a Harry Potter cloak and like hand sewed it together and put cardstock on the sleeves to be the cuffs, and like that was my little outfit. And I don't know, I just thought going to cons like you had to cosplay for some reason. I don't know how I knew about it. I just in my mind, it was like you can't not cosplay at a con. If you go to a con, you are in costume.
So
And
your friends from what school or the ones that like
yeah,
told you about it? Told you about Anime
just like
Matsuri?
middle school, 7th
Mhm.
grade, like a little horde of terrible children running around the anime convention essentially.
Oh my god, we love to see it. That's
Yeah.
so crazy that that cosplay was such a defining moment in your life
Mhm.
story that it set your hair trend for the foreseeable decade.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't know my forehead. Don't know her. Haven't seen her in a decade.
Unless you're in a lace front, like the officer,
Oh
what's her
god.
name? Caitlin?
Caitlin, yeah, I actually can't stand cosplays that show my forehead. I can only budget like one a year for my self confidence because I can't do it. I feel like I look like a different
Your
person.
mental like well-being can't take it.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know. It was just like it was such a good time because I had a group of friends that were really we were all really close and got like super into anime at the same time. We were watching it in like the band hall on the little PCs we had in the practice rooms. We would like turn it so no one could see and be watching instead of practicing.
Oh my
And
god, I
stuff.
love.
And so I don't know, that friend group was really what was like pivotal for me, just being able to like do it with them. And I
Okay,
don't
well, I
know.
have a question.
Yeah.
Was this also part of your friend group?
Yes.
Can you tell me about this photo, please?
Oni-Con 2013.
Let's talk about Oni-Con 2013. So, I'll tell you a memory that I think I
Mhm.
may have told on this program before, but I
Mhm.
have said that Onicon 2013 was my first anime convention.
Mhm.
And I remember vividly one of the key memories from that convention was walking down the hallway and seeing little gray people in orange horns hissing at me from the corners of the rooms and from the sides of the hallways.
Wait, no, it
Now
was
Miss
down
Stitch
that long
Crimes,
hallway. The long
yes,
hallway.
Miss Stitch Crimes, was were you one of the little gray people with the orange horns hiding in the corner hissing at me at my first anime convention? Was that you?
Okay, maybe not hissing, but I definitely was in a Spin the Fago group at down that creepy hallway at Oni-Con that people don't go down. The one like
If people
they
don't go
put the
down.
cosplay guests in this last time. I have vivid memories of like a literal pile of Homestucks
Oh my
in this
god.
corner.
Well,
Yeah,
and you
it
know,
it was
that
a
scarred me
time.
so much mentally that now when I go to conventions, I don't perceive Homestuck cosplayers. I just have a filter on my face, my eyes built into my brain, and I don't perceive them anymore. And I
Oh
think
my
that you're
god.
the reason.
I feel
You
like
specifically.
it's kind of funny because I feel like Homestuck like really got me so much deeper into like cosplay and stuff than I would have been otherwise, which is kind of a crazy thing to say because
Wait,
it's
how
so
so? How so?
cursed. Well, I don't know. It was just like one of those things where there was so much hype around it. Like every time there would be an update, like honestly, I don't even remember what it was about. I just remember the little gray people and like Dave Strider because he was an icon that also inspired a hair phase. Cut it like this short because I didn't know about wigs. But but I don't know, just all the hype about it and like everyone would be so much anticipation, like the gigapause, oh my god, this is like the biggest update ever. And all my friends were into it as well, and I made some really close friends during those times in the Homestuck piles in the creepy corners of conventions.
Wait. Were they actually called Homestuck piles?
No, no, but I
Oh,
just remember
okay.
I feel like it was during the era of like glomping too. And so
Yeah.
I feel like people would just always end up kind of like in an amorphous blob in the corner.
And the gray amorphous blob.
Yeah,
Jesus.
smudges everywhere. But I don't know, I feel like it just really invigorated my love for it because I met so many people that like we had this like really thing we were so intensely into in common. And that was the first time I had like a really big group of people I considered friends. And it just
Aw.
made me want to like keep coming back more and more because I was like, I don't know, I was a weird kid in middle school and this was a weird thing to do, but there were other people who were weird in it with me.
So you started your cosplay journey as a little gray clown, and
Yes.
you're here today as, well, not a gray clown, but
Hey, Charlie is coming up. White clown, I guess.
oh
Just the clown.
yeah. You
Literal
know,
clown white Ben Nye
it's
or
so
whatever.
true. It's so true. And like for me, my Lucifer journey has been slowly like devolving into more and more like clown makeup. And it started off being like, oh, I'm not going to be one of them. I'm not going to be one of the people that looks like a clown. Circus in town, Ringling Brothers, not me. And
Oh my
then
gosh.
over time, after wearing it multiple times, like this last time, I literally had clown white on my face, and I'm like, this is the full clown
Gosh.
transformation has happened.
I do have kind of like body paint PTSD from those times because I just remember like the gray would get everywhere. It was
Oh, it
insane.
would.
Like, now that I'm seeing more Homestucks, I'm like, I really hope they have learned from our ways back in like 2013. I really hope they have like some Ben Nye final seal or something on that makeup because I remember Con started even like banning Homestucks. They're like, you can't be in face paint here because it would
There were
just
some,
be
well, in the
on the
hotels.
furniture.
Yeah, the hotels would be like, "Oh no, like we're not hosting conventions here anymore because like
Yeah.
10 homestuckers jumped into the pool and like messed up the pipes with their wigs and their body paint."
Uh-huh. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's weird
really
seeing
wild.
it come back. It's like nature really is healing. Like I feel like after COVID, all of a sudden I'm seeing it all the time now. It's
Wait,
kind of
really?
wild. Yeah, you
Well, I
didn't
told you I have a filter. I don't see it anymore.
okay, yeah. No, they were all over San Japan. I was like, look at the children. Look at them go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to talk about learning to sew. So I
Mm.
think that myself and probably most people, when they think of Stitch Crimes, they think of really, really well tailored and fit and well constructed garments. You do more than that. Clearly, I mean, there's the wig croissants, there's the giant scalpels and scissors, but I think a lot of it is that sewing ability. How did you learn, or how did you start learning to sew?
Oh, well, thank you. But I think it was definitely like a lot of people at that time. Like I didn't have any classes or anything. And it was really unfortunate actually because I had a grandparent who knew how to sew and had all this amazing tools and stuff, but she passed away when I was really young and so like I didn't get any of that knowledge passed down. And so I was just like I want to learn how to make this thing and I didn't know about interfacing and the resources were not what they are today where you can like look up how to sew XYZ cosplay and there's like a pattern and a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it was a lot of just like having my parents like, can you please drive me a Joann's and getting the little commercial patterns and trying to kind of like piece that together along with I did a lot of I looked at the grannies on YouTube. They had a lot of good YouTube tutorials back in the day.
The
Like the
who?
the grannies, like, quilting
The
grandmas and
grannies.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
And
I
the
feel like
cameras were all like shaking and
yeah.
it was like half out of focus and they would
Mhm.
have it like, oh, I remember watching those too.
Yeah, yeah, and the blogs and stuff, but a lot of it was kinda just, like, I would get a commercial pattern that was close and then try to puzzle out how to do it, but I was kinda like putting together IKEA furniture without reading the instructions because I didn't really know how to understand a pattern. And also, I spent a lot of time like ripping apart clothes from the thrift store, which I think helped me kind of learn how things were constructed. Because normally, when you just put like a piece of clothing on, you don't really analyze how it's put together if you're not a seamstress already. So I think kind
Mm-hmm.
of just looking at things like that really helped me start to understand it. But it was also just a lot of time. I made a lot of really bad cosplays when I first started. Like,
I think that's honestly the biggest thing. 'Cause I was thinking about this myself. I was like, I wonder. I know I actually never asked you if you had any type of like training or anything like that from
yeah.
someone, and I just thought about my own journey, and I was like, yeah, it was just a lot of time. I think like a lot
Yeah.
of making things, and then for the next time trying to make it a little bit
Mhm.
better, and then as you made friends, or as I made friends and like met people that knew how to sew a lot better than me, I would like go over and like do like a sewing day, or I'd work on a cosplay in a group with
Yeah.
them, and I would just like
Mhm.
absorb experience like a sponge and then like keep
Mhm.
going, you know?
That's definitely that helped me a lot, and I think for me, it was kinda hard because a lot of my friends were more into, like, armor or, like, buying most of the parts of their cosplays for I had one friend who sewed a lot, but we were at about the same point in our journey, and honestly, when I was younger, I didn't really, like, branch out and meet a lot of people who were crafting at that point. I don't know, a lot of my friends were just thrifting their cosplays, so it was kinda just trial and error over time, but I think a lot of it was, like, kind of I call it, like, passive research, like,
Hmm.
I watch a ton of YouTube videos about just, like, historical sewing and general sewing and costuming and stuff, even if I'm not at all looking to do something like that, because it's like, well, an Edwardian, like, walking dress might not be applicable now, but who knows if I decide to make something like that down the line. Like, if you at least know the techniques and the skills exist to then look them up, it's a lot easier. Just like kind of developing that like general knowledge base so when you do have a way to apply it, you know what terms to look up. I feel like helped a lot.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Little sewing
Yeah.
nerd you. No, but I get it. I get it because it's like also with like fabric too. It's like
Mhm.
you might I'm still a very tactile person, and for me my favorite thing to do is to go to a large fabric warehouse or a fabric district and to touch and feel and like know what I want, but need to go and like actually see how it drapes and how does it look,
Mhm.
versus online you have to know the terms of like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm looking for like a like silk whatever, or like a satin or a
Mhm.
broadcloth or a twill or a whatever. Like you have to know like the different words of the fabrics, and that just comes with time too, because when I started I didn't know. I used muslin thinking it was linen, and
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure more than one occasion, and it was the muslin probably from Walmart that cost like 99 cents and is probably partially see-through.
Yeah, I was a broadcloth and fleece queen when I first started sewing, and also my parents' old bed sheets. They had some bed sheets that they were like going to throw away. They're like, "Oh, you're learning how to sew. Practice on these." So I think my Dave cosplay from Homestuck actually was my parents' old bed sheets.
I use
That
bed
was
sheets too.
yeah, very cheap way to start. I always recommend to people whenever they're starting to get some like really cheap fabric because it's not going to be good initially, and you don't want to
No.
be like sad that you've wasted fabric or something. Like, don't start with silk dupioni or anything
Oh
like
my
that.
god, I know. Can you imagine? Well, some people nowadays, the children are out here and they're starting their costume journey and they're like 6 months in. Oh, like you'll see the novices, or you'll see like someone that's like, oh, this was my very first time I ever made a armor, and you're like, what is this? This is
Hmm.
immaculate. Like, well, what did you? It's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like as time goes on, accessibility to resources and guides gets better,
Hmm.
and these people have like a launching pad to do the things that I feel like when we started we were like crawling for like sticks and twigs in the woods, and then the people
Yeah.
before us were using like cave like drawings, and like they didn't even
Hmm.
have they didn't even have wigs that they could even buy, like some of these
Yeah.
people.
I remember the struggle to make like Party City wigs work because I think when we started cosplaying, like Arda and those companies, I think they existed, but like I certainly didn't have the budget for them. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but like I remember like we got this Party City wig one time because it's all we could afford, and we just needed a short black wig, and it for some reason they had sewn wefts at the bottom of this bob like upwards instead of down. And so we were trying to style this wig, and it just kept doing this thing where the wefts pointing upwards were like sticking out of it. And I was so mad that I just gave up on wigs for another whole like year and a half because I just didn't know what to do.
Wait, time
Did
out, because that's literally the same thing that Vivera on episode 4 said about her wig that she bought for, oh my god, I don't remember what character it was, but it was like the bangs were sewn the wrong direction. Like the wefts were sewn in the wrong way.
Yes.
And like I think I
Mhm.
don't know where she got it from, I forgot. But literally they were like straight up like this in front of her head, like a little
Mhm.
like rooster.
Yeah,
It's
the
crazy.
resources available now are just so nice. Like, I'm really grateful for people who are starting nowadays because I feel like, I don't know, I'm glad I started really young because I feel like if I had started when I was older, I would have been really discouraged because of how hard things were to figure out back
Mm,
then. Like, I don't
yeah.
know. It just, we really were just fighting over scraps at that point. But
But I also
now,
feel like things weren't as serious. I don't know.
yes.
I feel like some times people there's just like this air of like, oh, everything is so serious, whether or not you're even
Hmm.
competing, and it's like it's really not that serious. I feel like everyone's grinding for like, oh, I need to post this many times a week, that way people will see me on whatever app, or like,
Hmm.
oh, I need to be doing this many contests a year, that way I can be doing whatever this is. And I'm like, I feel like back in like 2013, 2014, when we started it, those years were just so easy, and probably because we didn't know any better. We were little boogers
Yeah.
running around with our like bed sheets and our falling apart garments, but even still it just seemed like there was so much, it was so chill.
Yeah, we thought we were absolutely killing it, and it was that's what I loved about it because I feel like it really let me, like, learn in my own time and not be so stressed about things, whereas
Mm,
nowadays, I feel like it's also partially because I feel like some people know me for sewing, I feel like I can't show up in anything that, like, looks the tiniest bit off, so I get so stressed out about even what's supposed to be a simple cosplay. And then things
mm.
end up taking me like 4 times as long as they probably should, you know? Like,
Yeah, I know what you mean. That was something that I was wrangling with myself with Lios when I made him in like
mm,
5 days,
that was
because
insane.
it was insane, and I don't recommend it. But I was sitting here thinking like, oh well, people think or know that I can make armor, and I was sitting here trying to make this full armor. And granted, it's not like the most complex armor in the world, but it's a lot. And I was like,
Mhm.
trying to make it really, really fast. So I was like, cutting corners. I was like, well, I don't have time to sand or fill seams, so I'm gonna just make sure I try to get this as clean as I can, and then we're gonna move on, and hopefully it doesn't look like dog shit. And it ended up looking good to my surprise, because the whole time through I was not convinced, and everyone was like, oh my god, it looks so good, but I was like, I could see the flaws, like we all can in our own stuff.
Yeah.
But it was very much like, well, if I make this, even though it's a for fun cosplay and like very chill, very fun group, if I make it and it looks like shit, are people going to be like, oh, like, does he actually even know what he's doing? And it's like that residual feeling, which is why during the project I was like, oh, like, I'm nervous, this doesn't look as great as I want it to, this doesn't look as great. Everyone's like, shut up, it looks fine. But then it's
Yeah.
always it's our inner saboteur, as Miss RuPaul says, coming for us while we're working on stuff, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely hard because 'cause you're always gonna be your own harshest critic. Like, you're the one who knows what every little seam looks like on the inside, so, I
Hmm.
know. It's
Okay.
always oh,
Oh, sorry, finish. I did not mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, you're good. But yeah, it's always the worst, like, especially in judging rooms and stuff, whenever people start to tell you what's wrong, it's like, we can't see it. Don't tell us about it,
Oh, we're getting
please.
to that, honey. We're getting
Okay.
to that. But first, we're going to talk about Oni-Con this year, because we were just talking about Oni-Con in
Uh,
our beginning eras. So, when was the last time you went to Oni-Con as an attendee? Oh, let me give a backup, because we're now a global audience on this program, so we can't
ooh.
just assume that all the girlies are from Texas. So Oni-Con is a 3-day anime convention that has been based in Galveston, Texas, on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico for the past at least 10 years. It's been there.
Mhm.
Before that, it was in other venues. Actually, as a little, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but in a future episode this season, we have a guest that will tell us about their Oni-Con experience when it was not in Galveston, and it was wild. But it's been Galveston since I was going, since you've been going.
Mhm.
And it's right on the seawall, which is really kind of cool, because depending on the time of year, you can go down to the beach and take some really cool photos on the beach, weather permitting. It's very windy because of the ocean. And it's kind of interesting. It's a really interesting venue. I think it might be the only one of the only conventions at the very least that's like actually on the beach. So I know that
Mhm.
back in the pre-COVID years, there would always be a lot of people taking photos there, and like sometimes like Mineral Blue Long, who was last season, he took a photo of like our Sailor Moon group once on the beach, and it was like really big because everyone was like, where is this anime convention? How can you take photos on the beach like that? Now granted, the beach is not, it's no Maldives. It's no Bora Bora, honey. It looks, with enough Photoshop and Lightroom, you can make anything look glamorous, but it
Mhm.
is not necessarily the Florida Keys, but it's a fun time. So that's Oni-Con. It's pretty small. I don't know the exact attendee count. I would say it's maybe like 5,000-6,000 people, maybe. Um, and that's just a rough guess off the top of my head. But yeah, both Sammy and I are going to be cosplay guests this year, and we're going to be going back to our stomping grounds. Okay, so back to my original question. Now they have the disclaimer and the preface out.
Mhm.
When was the last time you were at Onicon as an attendee?
I think probably just last year. I think I've gone basically every year probably since I started cosplaying. I can't think of a year I've missed. I don't know. It's like 30 minutes from my house, so it's really easy to go to.
Oh my god. I let's see. So it was my first con in 2013. I definitely was going every year throughout college at least. So that maybe was like maybe every year, like maybe 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, I think was like our Sailor Moon group. Maybe I went in 2018. I don't really remember. That might have, if I went in 2018, that would have been last year. And then I did not go in 2019 or 2020. And I moved to Chicago and I was there. And
Mhm.
I mean, look, we love a little local con. I'm not flying back from Chicago to into Houston to drive an hour and a half to get to Galveston to go to good old Oni-Con. But and then when I got back to Texas, let's see, it happened last summer was my first summer. It happened last year. But again, I would say the drive from Dallas is not the same as a drive from your house. It's a good like trek
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah, Houston has a lot of like small local cons that are nice and convenient for me at least. Like Oni-Con and Delta H-Con, they're both like
Well,
about
they're not all
30, 40
nice.
minutes away.
Yeah, they're all not all nice,
Yeah,
but
they're not all nice, but there's some that like I always go just to hang out with friends because it's nice to have those like local cons. They're just a different vibes than like going to something big. You can just sit in the lobby with your friends and go to Chili's or something.
oh, for sure. And
Mhm.
I think so. Hey, one of my favorite things about Onicon also is that one, there's a Kroger grocery store next door, and when you walk in there to get your lunch, as you do, the looks you get are priceless. I would have thought by now people in the Galveston would expect that around this time of year there are going to be circus clowns walking through the grocery store
Mhm.
aisles, but they always seem shocked. So it's like, oh my god.
It's also, like, close enough to Halloween most of the time that you'd think that, like, they wouldn't be that shocked. I don't know. It used to be, like, on Halloween weekend, I feel
On
like.
Halloween, yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be on Halloween. I thought, well, that's why my first Onicon, I thought it was a Halloween thing because
Mhm.
I was on Halloween and I was like, people go to this thing, this I didn't know what to call it, I guess convention, but they go to this like event and they dress up as characters. And I was like, oh, it's like Halloween. It's for Halloween. So I went and oh boy was I surprised because I did not expect anything of what I saw, but it hooked me enough to keep me here today.
The green
Um
or the gray people didn't
the
scare you
gray
away
people, the
enough.
little gray people. Oh, and also the Rainforest Cafe.
Yes, the best
Mama.
rainforest cafe in the country,
Oh
according to
yes.
yeah.
Because I watched the documentary after you
Mhm.
told me to go watch it. So there's a documentary on YouTube, and it's this man. I don't remember his name. You can't credit him, but if you look up Rainforest Cafe, every Rainforest Cafe in the United States, it comes up. He went around the entire country for 3 weeks and tried every single Rainforest Cafe in every state slash Canada, and the one in Texas, in Galveston, Texas, is the best from a quality
Mhm.
perspective, and also the best because it has its own ride. And you can bet your ass, Sammy, we are going on that water ride. I don't
Yes.
care what it looks like. We are going on that ride. It needs to be had, and it will make my experience, I think.
We're gonna be fighting for our life in the back rooms of the Rainforest Cafe when the ride gets stopped. That's what scares me. It's like, how many people actually go on this every day? Is
I
it
don't
in
know.
working order? I don't know.
Who knows? We don't know. Is there is
We'll
there
have to
someone? Is there an
see.
inspection that happens annually?
Don't
Is there
know.
like well, how rigorous is the ride? Is it, are the animatronics gonna like hurt us? We'll have to find out together. Um, what are you most excited for about Oni-Con? I'm most excited for the Rainforest Cafe, which I don't know if that's the right answer I should be giving, but I'm also excited to go back to the convention center
Mhm.
and have all the nostalgia feels come back into my body because it feels like a homecoming after like 11 years ago. That was my very first convention, and now I'm a
Mhm.
guest there 11 years later. It just seems crazy. But what are
Yeah.
you most excited for?
I'm excited, obviously, Rainforest Cafe. That one's important. But I think one big thing is that I know, so like the cosplay programming is run by local cosplayers from the Houston area. So like they're very focused on it. And I know a lot of like the cosplayers are going to show up for the contest and they're really excited for it. So I'm just excited to be part of like judging and getting to participate in the contest from the other side. Because I remember when I was growing like into cosplay, Oni-Con was the one contest we would watch like every year, and I always thought like, wow, it's so big. This is like the peak of cosplay.
Oh, honey,
Yeah,
have you entered that contest before?
I did. Yeah, once post COVID. What year was that? 2022. I competed
Oh,
in Zon Caitlin. That was the purple outfit. You're
I'll
doing like
pretend like I
mental
know what that
calculus.
is. Girl, I can't keep track. I know that there's the, oh no, I do, I think. Does she have a
Hmm.
gun?
Yes, yeah, the purple rifle. I have too
Okay.
many very large props for Caitlin because Riot doesn't know how to make a small prop is an issue. I'm running out of space on the pegboard I store everything on. It's terrible.
Oh my god, I put up my props finally. I have my little mask back there in the
Hmm.
corner.
Oh, I see
But
it.
I finally started hanging the props and I have like swords up here. You can't see them. I'm probably gonna leave that wall for like maybe my axe for Balthus will go up there. I don't know. I'm getting distracted. I competed at Oni-Con. It was my first contest ever.
Ooh,
It did not go well.
no.
Um, did you get an award in your contest?
I did. I got best in show for that
Of
one.
course you did, bitch. Oh my god. Okay, well, beyond that, I'm more important. So we're talking about me for a second. I did not get anything. My shit was one of those costumes that looks big and everyone's like, "Oh my god,"
uh,
loses their mind like, "Oh my god, why didn't he win?" Mama. I think from a young age, that's when I learned that the big cardboard thing is not necessarily the thing that wins. But when I made this, I thought this is major. None of you could ever be like me. So I did it with my friend,
what was it?
Marlena. It was Groudon and
Oh.
Kyogre from Pokemon. These were not I don't know what these were. They weren't Gajinkas because I've made a number of them after that were
Mhm.
much more respectable and not absolute abominations. But this was a combination of hot glue, foam, uh like floral cones, fabric that was not one stitch on that entire costume, girl, not one stitch. Everything was hot glue, fabric tack, super glue, contact cement. I straight up got high off contact cement in my mom's dining room because we didn't ventilate nothing. We were literally pouring buckets of that all over this. What was it? Basically a mattress. It was basically a pillow, a giant pillowcase that was probably 7 feet long, stuffed with polyfill that we were contact cementing pieces of foam onto for like the scales.
Oh my god. Do
Mess.
you have pictures? I feel like I
I'll
need to
I'll
see them.
I'll show you pictures after this. I
Okay.
don't have any. I don't think I even have them on Instagram. Maybe if you go all the way back, you can find it. I don't know, but I'll show you after this. Um, no, I did not win. I thought we were everything. I could barely walk in that costume. I painted my face red. Oh, I have to show you. It's evil. So needless to say, that was my experience with the Oni-Con costume contest. I could never go back for fear of my shame from the booger down production I was serving on that stage. But I'm excited to come back as a judge. That way I can be the
Mhm.
one sitting there this
You can
time.
redeem yourself.
I guess. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
My first contest was actually Louise Anime. That one was a out of left field.
does that still exist?
No. I only went the one time because I had this friend who was vending as an artist there, and I was in my like broadcloth Madoka cosplay. it was it was pretty rough, but like I had a friend that kind of bullied me into entering. And so I was there like in the hotel lobby printing off my single reference picture because I knew you had to have that. I learned that from like their website or something. And
Oh, that
I
was a
was
rule. You had to have a reference picture.
yeah, I think so. And I was like absolutely petrified because I was a band kid, you know. I was not in theater. Like, put me on stage and I will cry. Normally, if I'm in cosplay, I've learned I'm okay. But so I was so scared. But one of the judges was actually Mango Cyrene. I think she goes by Fawnina now. And
Oh my god,
yeah,
yes.
and I like really looked up to her as a baby cosplayer, and I ended up getting her
Same.
Judge's Choice Award. And it absolutely, like, hooked me on competing after that because I was like, "Oh my god, someone I look up to, like, saw what I did and liked
Oh
it."
my god.
And I don't know, that's how, like that was my first contest experience, but it was also I think it was, like, 15 people, it was tiny.
Okay, that is
It's
such a much better experience. I mean, my experience at Oni-Con was not bad. And like winning isn't everything, but wanting to is Alyssa Edwards quote. But I also was like, it was just crazy. And then I learned from that experience. So I think
Mhm.
I would have loved to get a judge's award though from Mingo Serene, now Fawnina, because she was a queen, is a queen.
Mhm.
Don't know if she still cosplays,
I
but
don't know. I haven't seen her
her
in, like,
videos were so
years.
good. Her videos were so good
Mhm.
on YouTube. Like she did like con vlogs, she did like tutorials. I lived. It was
Yeah.
so good.
I loved watching her stuff, and I don't know, it was really cool. I also like that you always get to meet the guests, like, up close when you're competing. That was something I found really cool when I first started. I'm like, "I get to be in a room with these people and talk about cosplay, that's so cool."
I know. Oh, one more thing I will mention about Onicon before we move on, because I have to give them flowers. So a lot of conventions, they don't they don't care about cosplayers. They don't care about
Mm-mm.
cosplay programming. They know cosplay is part of the color of the entire event and they know that it's part of the culture. But when it comes to allocating budget, dollars, resources, and volunteers to the cosplay programming track, they do not do it. And most of
Mhm.
them, some of them, aren't even run by cosplayers or they aren't even run by people who've ever done a contest before. Onicon is different and their coordinators actually care and they are actively putting resources, time, and energy into workshops, which is really exciting. So if you are going to Onicon, this episode's coming out before then. So you should not be distracted by the floating dog that's behind Stitch Crimes right now. And you should look into the workshops because they have actual hands-on workshops from teachers that you can participate in, which is really cool. This is not sponsored or advertised by them. I just think it's cool because
Mhm.
if I was a cosplayer, I'm a fraud. If I were going to a convention like Onicon, and they had the opportunity, I would want to know about it because I think it's so cool. I'm a very hands-on learner. I
Mhm.
don't learn super well just from reading. So being able to be in a workshop panel and actually learn with an actual piece of material in front of me with someone who's an expert in this or at least a trained person in this, it's really nice. Um,
Yeah. I really it's cool to get to see more cons starting to do this. I feel like I need to start seeking it out because whenever I go to a con that has workshops, I normally don't learn about it till they're all sold out. Like, the
mm,
last time we had a con before it disappeared, goodbye, RIP. But, they had workshops, but I didn't know about it till, like, a couple days before, I think, so everything was already sold out or, like, beyond my budget. Which
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. I need to do
Mhm.
that too. I'm like bad at it as well because when I go to cons, I'm usually thinking about just like my friends and like wearing my costumes, maybe competing, or like if I'm judging, then that takes up the whole time. So it just gets hectic. But I needed to be better about actually seeking out those learning opportunities as well because there is so much I don't know. There
Yeah.
is. I am ripe for learning. Let me just say that. Um, all right, we're going into contest judging because we've judged together this past summer.
Mhm.
We've judged separately from one another a few times. We're judging together again here in less than a month. And I want to just talk about it. I want to just talk about the prejudging experience for people that maybe have done contests before, for people that have judged before, for people that have no idea what we're even talking about. I want to give as much as we can give to the nice listeners of this program, because I have a lot to say. I think after A Fest, we all had a lot to say. And I'll start this with a disclaimer that these aren't necessarily comments that are specific to our A Fest experience, but they may have been a part of that. And these are just general things that I want to talk about. So, first thing, I want your advice for people that are entering a cosplay contest and are having to go through prejudging as part of that cosplay contest. What are some of your best tips of advice for those people that are walking into that room with the 3 or 4 judges, and they have to present their costume to them? What would you tell them?
I think definitely like my number one tip is to practice what you're going to say because I know, at least for me, I tend to freeze up in prejudging and forget things. And your goal during prejudging is really, especially for things the judges can't visibly see just looking at your cosplay, you want to tell them about how you made it, all the effort that went into it, and like the parts you're most proud of. So you want to make sure you hit all the highlights of like, well, they can't see how you patterned it, so you should talk about that. They can't see how the inside is finished, so maybe you want to talk about how the inside is finished and like flip seams. And I take clothing off and give it to the judges as long as I can do it decently. Like, look at everything, please. But yeah, I think my biggest advice, just don't mention anything you don't like we talked about earlier. If there's something that's like you are not a fan of that you didn't fix, don't talk about it because in the like couple of minutes we get to see your cosplay, we might not notice it. And you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage if you're like, oh, but this seam is terrible, or like this popped open or something.
Right.
So,
I think that what I say a lot of the time is if there is something that is very problematic, usually the judges will see it without you
yeah.
needing to point it out. And
Mhm.
if they can't see it, this is my thing. If the judges cannot get their little rat hands inside of it, do not tell us about it.
Mhm.
Because at that point, you can tell us it's not going to help you. Like,
Yeah.
it's never a good thing to be like, oh, well, I know that this is all twisted and falling apart, but it's like, don't even say it. Or if you're asked about it, because most judges will not confront you about something that you did not
Mhm.
well. They won't be like, oh, well, I noticed that your pantyhose are ripped. What are you going to tell me about that? If they're telling you, there are some judges that might do that. And if they're telling you that, that's crazy. But um, I would always try to spin it and say, like, oh, there was a challenge that I had in this area and I experimented with these methods to try to overcome it or something like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
really, judges can see the problem. That's one thing. If they can't see the problem, that's another thing. And they shouldn't be pointing it out because that's whack. They should not be
Yeah.
like being like, "Oh, why does your wig look like that? Why is it falling apart?" That's
Mhm.
not something they just in their head they can think it. They should not be saying it to you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like otherwise just another big thing is disclosing anything you bought because I feel like a lot of the time if people don't say that outright, it kind of feels like they're trying to maybe hide something, even if you just forget. If I have to be like, so is that like a cosmic coterie pattern or something? And you, especially when people try to say no, and it's like, sure. I definitely don't recognize that dangerous ladies model or whatever.
Oh
But
my
I think,
god.
yeah, disclosing like anything you bought's a really important big thing. Just to be clear about like what you did make, what you didn't, and also if you made any alterations from the design for either personal comfort or other reasons. Because for me personally, like especially when I first started cosplaying, I often made like skirts longer, which makes the proportions look a little bit weird, but it was like for personal comfort or things like that. Or if you can't wear heels, so you chose to wear flats and maybe they don't look the most accurate. If there's a reason behind it, it's definitely good to mention like any design alterations you made because that's totally fine. If it's because you can't like wear the heels, don't wear the heels. Don't struggle through that, please.
Well, and then there was that one contest, not going to name names, but they were like, "Oh, well, we're judging you based off of your makeup and your contacts." Like they were like,
Yeah.
oh well, if your contacts aren't the right color, sis, that's a minus 3 points. And that's the other
That's
thing too.
crazy.
Most conventions, it is rare that a convention will have a prejudging where points are being tallied in a systematic way. That does not
Mhm.
happen very often. Like
Yeah.
the number of contests where there's actually a rubric that must be adhered to, where you are awarding points and averaging to get a score across your judges and then ranking them against that's so rare and uncommon. Most of the time, it's whatever the judges can learn from you and visually see in that 3 to 5 minute time frame that you are allotted, and that is it. And we're using our best judgment based off our expertise and our experience and what we heard and what we saw to basically figure out how do you rank against your competitors, because you
Yeah.
aren't being judged in a vacuum. You're being judged next to the good girl that's outside waiting to come in behind you, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a misconception where people are always like, "Oh, well, I lose points if I do this or something." And it's like you don't really need to think of it in terms of that. It's more of a tier list with your fellow competitors because like what could be a best in show cosplay at one convention could not place it all at another convention or even at that same con at a different year. It always depends
Exactly.
on who shows up, and so it's really hard. You can't just be like, this cosplay is A plus 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 perfect, always would win, or vice versa. You just don't know. And so it's a lot more about like what you can do to set yourself apart, but that doesn't guarantee anything. Because like
Hmm.
if you buy a pattern but execute the cosplay perfectly, that's still going to be better than if you made the pattern yourself, but the end result doesn't fit you, looks kind of in some places, because sometimes it's better to play to your strengths and like, I don't know, you don't have to make everything yourself, but the difference is if someone next to you did, then that's
But
where it
sometimes
comes
if you play
in.
to your strengths too much, it can be consequential. But anyway, I want to talk about also wearing your costume on your body. So here's something so here's something else. Um we have seen at conventions that sometimes, okay, first of all, I get it. There's sometimes too many contestants, and prejudging must be divided up to multiple days, as in a Friday and a Saturday days sessions of prejudging. And if you're competing in the contest, which is almost always on Saturday, and you are being asked to go to prejudging on Friday, and that's the only time slot that was available by the time you signed up, that's the one you got. I know it sucks. For most people, they don't want to wear their costume 2 days in a row. They don't want to put their costume on, maybe just take it off. I get it. But here's the thing, if you are not wearing your costume, what you are showing the judges usually is a pile of garments and armor, and we cannot see how it fits on your body, how it drapes. We cannot see how it moves. We cannot see any of those things. What we can see is all those little rat areas that I mentioned before that you don't want us to go into. We can see all inside of those. And honestly, at the end of the day, if a garment's constructed well, that shouldn't really matter. But also, it doesn't do you any favors to bring it in a suitcase, even on a mannequin, because the odds of you having a mannequin that are actually your body proportion is so rare. One that you can transport into a convention center, not likely. Um, we just saw that has happened before, and I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it makes it hard.
It makes it really hard, and I think anytime you don't wear your cosplay to prejudging, you're doing yourself a massive disservice because, like, it's all well and good to have a well executed piece of armor or garment, and sure, I can look inside and be like, oh, that looks clean. But if it doesn't fit you or you can't move in it, that kind of negates the point. And so, I don't know, it's really hard when the only time you're getting to see someone wear something is when they're walking the stage. And versus if you get to see the fit on someone up close, like it's not that you're missing out on points, but it's that that other person who did wear it is potentially gaining points because the judges can look at it and be like, oh wow, this looks like impeccable. Like the fit here is amazing. Like, you can actually move. You have great mobility. Like we had someone at AFES come in and do a little jig to show how well their armor fit. But also, like, one thing to me about bringing your cosplay in on hangers and stuff is if prejudging is really packed, which it can be at times. Like, I think we were judging for what, like 10 hours or something at
Oh,
AFES?
you mean like if they're back to back to back entrance and
Yes.
there's really a little time between
Hmm.
people slash no time and the schedule's really tight.
Yeah, like, please don't bring a suitcase with your cosplay in the suitcase and then proceed to unpack it for like 5 minutes while we're just sitting there watching. It's it just sets everything off on the wrong foot, and then you can see everything inside. So yeah, I really wish more conventions would just make it so you have to wear the cosplay to prejudging, because I think it's something a lot of people don't know is detrimental. And
Hmm.
so I don't know.
I mean, like you said earlier, if you want to wear the costume on your body and then undress yourself for the judges, be my guest because not only will you be able to show them the inside finishings of the garment,
Hmm.
but you might get some extra points from showing a little something something. No, I'm kidding. That's how you've won so much. I'm learning. I'm
Oh
learning the
my
wet
god.
method. Just go in there and undress yourself, and then that's a surefire way to best in show.
Yeah, handing judges a really sweaty jacket really endears them to
Ooh,
you.
I didn't think about that.
No.
Oh no, I can never do that. The sweat coming off my body at
Oh my
all
god.
times could
Ball
never.
fist, I'm still terrified of the muscles.
The trauma of it all. That's why I literally did not wear that to Anime Expo. What advice do you have for judges that are going to be prejudging other people? This could be for judges that, are new and haven't judged a contest before. Maybe it's their first time. Maybe it's judges who have done it for a while, but they don't even realize that some things like what's your advice for judges?
Yeah, I think this is actually a really interesting one because I got kind of snuck into the back rooms of prejudging at a contest a while back, and I was just sitting there like to support some friends, and I actually saw the prejudging happening. And my number one thing that I think a lot of people who are new to judging don't know and don't do is get out of your seat
Stand
and
the
look
fuck
at things.
up.
Yes, because I was watching these judges and I'm just sitting here like, please stand up, please stand up. And all of them just sitting behind the table the whole time, because I think it's really hard to judge properly if you're not going under and flipping seams. Because we've both had the circumstances where something walks into the room and you're like, wow, that's so cool, but you flip up the skirt or you turn the edges and it's raw seams. And so I don't know, things can actually seeing what's underneath and seeing how things are constructed and finished should really make a big difference in judging. And if you're just looking at it from a distance, not even walking around the contestant to see the back, I don't think you're doing your job.
I
Sorry,
agree
but
100%. No, I
yeah.
agree because like the thing is, okay, I've also been in positions before where here's the thing. I would clarify with the convention the schedule
Mhm.
because there are some conventions that will encourage you to not even be in cosplay when you judge because cosplay is an inhibitor to your
Mhm.
body in many different ways. And if you are in cosplay, you might be constrained in such a way to where you can't judge as well as you could if you were wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt. Now, granted, there are some costumes that are more appropriate for wearing to prejudging versus others. However, if that costume is something that you're so exhausted from wearing, it makes you sit down, don't be in it. And I learned that from San Japan because I went and I did my Friday prejudging in my samurai and I was in hell. I had a horrible time because I knew I had to be in standing and I had to go and look at the costumes to where by the end of that day, I had dragged my chair out right in front of where the contestant was standing, and I was like using it as a crutch almost and like leaning on it. That way I didn't have to stand anymore because I was physically exhausted. The next day I came back, I wore none of that. I wore
Mhm.
nothing to prejudging and it was so much better. So I would say that unless you have like a physical impairment, there really is no excuse for you not getting up, going and looking at this costume 360, asking the cosplayers if you can touch their costumes, and then doing your due diligence to see what that looks like. Because if you are not doing that, it shows the cosplayer either that you don't care, you don't know how to do your job, or you don't even want to be there really, which kind of goes with the first
Mhm.
point. But either way, it either shows that like you think that they're not worth your time to actually look at their costume, whether or not that's your intention. Because you might just not even know that you're supposed to go and stand up and look at these costumes. It might be your first time, but if you are not even giving them the courtesy to go and look at their costume and actually see their work in person, touching and inspecting, it just sends a message that you really don't want to be there.
Yeah, I've definitely been on the like receiving end of that behavior from judges, and it makes you feel so sad as a contestant because it's like, was my work like really that just not good to where you didn't even want to look at it? Because I had experienced like really good judging before where it felt like they're asking me questions, showing that they're knowledgeable about how I made it and asking more about details I might have missed, and really just showing that they're like interested in what I made. Versus one time the judges kind of just sat back in their chairs and they actually pointed out flaws. That was the one time I have had that happen to me. And
What did they say? Wait, what was it? What costume was it? Wait, no, don't say. Wait, you don't say what costume it
okay,
was, but like, what were some examples of what they said?
so it's the one time I haven't placed. I'm not gonna say what cosplay it was. If people want to dig, they can. But it was like I had this prop, and I think I like used a base object and then put Warbler on top of it. And this was before I really knew how to like finish Warbler. And so it was pretty raw, you know, like it was just paint on the like old brown Warbler. And they were just like, this looks really rough. Like, okay.
Oh, really,
Not
honey?
because like how you should phrase that is like, oh, how did you prime this, you know, like that's
Yes.
the probing questions you do as a judge to also help teach the contestant potentially at the same time and learn about it if you do see something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just be like, man, that looks terrible. Like,
Oh
aren't
my
you
god.
embarrassed? No, it was terrible.
That's
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's okay. I was gonna say another thing with questions. So like I think that sometimes judges may feel like if they don't ask a lot to each contestant that they aren't demonstrating their qualification to be in the
Hmm.
room, when in reality I believe that the contestant needs to be given the first opportunity to say whatever they want to say.
Yes.
They should be able to use the time however they want, and they should be able to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And when there are potentially gaps in their conversation, they stop talking or they are thinking, that's a perfect time for a judge to interject and ask a question about something they didn't already cover or to clarify something that they said. But I think it's frustrating when judges are talking over the contestant, not letting them speak, just so they
Hmm.
can ask one of their questions. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the contestant to convey the information that they feel they need to. It's not up to the judges to probe information out of them. Unless, with an asterisk, there's an investigation under did they actually make the garment? That's something
Yeah.
that it's like we have to figure that out. Did you
Hmm.
make the clothing that's on your body?
That is always an interesting one. It's always so disappointing when it happens and you start to catch on to like, oh, this person definitely didn't make that. It's just like it
Hmm.
makes everyone feel bad all around because it's like, I know you're lying to me. You know you're lying to me. Everyone's upset about this situation. Like
I'm
it,
not. I'm usually the one over the corner just laughing.
I'm still okay. I'm gonna be a bit shady, but like I'm still not over when I ask what sewing machine did you use? The standard one. What
The
is the
standard
standard
one.
one? Which one? You mean on these serge seams? The standard sewing machine did that? Okay.
Little did you know, the standard one comes with a overlock, a cover stitch. It comes with everything you could possibly want.
Watch out
Um,
B79. The
oh,
standard one's
seriously,
coming
I
for
know the
you.
standard one. Um,
Uh,
okay, I think I covered everything there. I just had a random question. What was your first like big cosplay? And I say that it's a spectrum, right? Because it's like
hmm.
everyone's next project is usually a learning experience, and it is a lot of times their next big cosplay. But like I
Mhm.
think a lot of us can pinpoint a moment where we tackled a project that had so many different skills and so much, it was such a big investment of time, money, and learning, that that was kind of something that propelled them forward into making more like that. Do you have a costume that was like that for you?
Actually, yeah, definitely. For me, it was kind of out of necessity because I really fell in love with Elise from Fire Emblem Fates. And if y'all don't know the character, Elise has these massive, not even drill curls, just like tubes of hair, which apparently is a
Body
signature
pillows?
of mine now. Because just like these insane twin tails that I think when I made them, they were like 2.5, 3 feet long or something. It was crazy. But there's no good way to make that cosplay without just going for it. And so I think that was really the first one where I put my all into it. And I think it was my first Best in Show award. It was just like a lot of new techniques because I learned I like stubbed the wig. I made these insane pigtails that I used Somerset So's Bono's tutorial for because she
Did you
had like an Elise
really?
tutorial on the depths of Tumblr. So like I learned wig
Shout out to
styling.
that sewing bitch from
Yeah.
Chicago.
Learn wig styling. It was like my first time making a proper in quotes. If you look at it, don't judge me. This is like 2016. A proper corset with like boning and eyelets and everything, and just like trying to experiment with actual different fabrics, not just broadcloth and glitter bug satin. So I think that was definitely like a pivotal point for me because it kind of led me into all the things I ended up really enjoying doing. Although wigs, I hate wigs. Wigs are my
Mm.
mortal enemy. There's so much
I have
glue
wigs
and
literally back
fibers.
there on the table. I have that wig. This is
Mm.
not the Bitch About Wigs channel, but if it was, I could have content for every day of the week because I
Mhm.
detest them too. But no, that's great. So
Yeah.
your Fire Emblem Elise was like the big one that you had to learn a lot, dig deep into resources, and like really just go all out on that one. And then from there, I feel like that's become your kind of your gig.
Yeah, it kind of just snowballed from there. I think that was like it was also cool because that competing in Elise and then Celica were actually the year after it. They were both at Delta HCon. I think it was like Delta 2017, 2018. But those were also kind of what led to me guesting for the first time because I don't remember who was judging which year. I know Megan Vivera judged one of the years. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember which one it was, but the second year the judges actually like brought me to the cosplay coordinator and they're like, please get this girl to guest. They're like, she's won
Oh
two
my
years in a row.
god.
Please have her guest. So I ended up guesting the next year at Delta, and it like in addition to kind of leading into what I like to do with cosplays after that, it also opened doors with guesting. And I learned I really love being on the other side of it too, with like judging and teaching panels and stuff. So it
Well,
was really cool.
that's also what happened with you saying that anecdote about Delta Age. That's basically what happened with Taco Cat, Kirsten. Well, she won Acon 2 years in a row, and then they
Hmm.
still weren't inviting her to be a guest, and so she was like, "I'm just going to keep doing this and just keep winning Best in Show every year until they actually finally say something." And then she caused the convention to go up in flames and crumbled into obscurity and demise, and it was all her fault. So, yeah. No, that's crazy. So I think mine, I was actually, I made this question thinking I had an answer, but then I wasn't so sure because I feel like it was probably in 2017 when I made my wizard from Diablo 3. And I did that with Bavera and Carol, Alan Coffey and Megan. I use their names backwards, whatever. We did Wizard, Monk, and Barbarian from Diablo 3. And that was a costume that had like a good amount of armor, a surprising amount of sewing. And actually, it was kind of funny because I think that we all helped each other in different ways on those projects, in different strengths and different techniques and everything like that. And that was a really really fun, it was 2017, we wore that to Acon at Fort Worth. That was the first year it was in
Hmm.
Fort Worth after it had moved, and I got we got a best armor award from Kamui. That was kind of my
Oh,
moment.
and
That
you
was
were
my
like the
moment.
armor girly at that point too, mainly,
Yeah, so
right?
that was my moment of like kind of how you had your mango siren moment. That was
Mhm.
my moment where it was like that's recognition from someone that is like I used her tutorials as I started to learn, and like that was just so
Mhm.
surreal. I was very happy. And then from there, I there were flaws, obviously. I mean, we did not get
Mhm.
best in show, and there's a reason for that, definitely. But like, I think that I learned so much, and that was what really pushed me. I think in 2017 to really want to hone in on my sewing because
Mhm.
I wanted to get better. And now I feel like my sewing is like, I don't know, maybe not as maybe just as good as my armor or anything else because I just spent so
Mhm.
much time on it. But
Yeah, I feel like you're
um
really well-rounded overall. Like, I know you started more so with the armor and stuff, but I don't think of you as like the armor person. It's like you just
mhm.
made that insane corset and stuff for Lucifer and those shoulders and the tailoring.
Oh my god. Now I still have to make a tutorial on that. Ugh,
Oh
it haunts
gosh.
me. Okay. Cons of the summer recap. So I want you to just rattle off cons of the summer for you, starting in like May with probably MomoCon for you, right?
Yeah. Geez, this is hard to think back. That feels like a lifetime ago for some reason. But yeah, MomoCon, Nishi was around them, right? Nishi was a
Nishi
while
was in
after
April.
April. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna MomoCon
Uh,
was end of May.
then I know Delta. Uh, I'm
How was
definitely gonna
MomoCon?
miss a lot.
How was
What?
MomoCon for you?
It
How
was
was
so
MomoCon
fun.
for you?
Well, the
Yeah.
contest was interesting, but I just felt bad for the contestants. It sounded so poorly organized with the prejudging and stuff. But so it was really fun. I got to hang out with Geeky Seamstress and Blush Bunny a lot. So that was really fun. And my partner really likes board games, so all of Momo's really big for board games. They have a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
like indie game companies come in, or also trading card games. So we kept
How's the
dropping him
venue?
off at.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. How's the venue?
it's a lot of walking.
Oh.
My feet were like bleeding by the end of one
Oh.
day. It was really bad. But
Oh.
I don't know. I really like Momo. I feel like I'd like it more if I could stay like actually at one of the hotels. It's one of those cons where it's really inconvenient. I feel like if you're not at a hotel within walking distance, because the
So is
garage.
it like yeah, how's that set up? Like is there like is there like how many hotels is there a hotel connected to the convention center or like how does that look?
Yeah, there's one connected, and I think there's a couple like within walking distance, but we've always decided to go too last minute for that or been too cheap for the con hotels. Because it's kind of hard to get the hotel block at the actual host hotel connected to the con center.
Mm,
But some of these parking lots, if you don't get the garage that sells out, are such a hike to get to the con. I don't know.
mm,
It's one of those things where it's like I'm sure if I was like a Georgia native, I would know all the ins and outs and know to reserve these things ahead of time, like I know to for some of our cons in Texas. Like, if you want to go out for San Japan, you have to reserve because you have to make a reservation for dinner because it's on the Riverwalk and Labor Day
mm-hmm.
weekend and insane. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I always like that one. It's really big compared to a lot of the
I
ones we have around here.
I definitely want to go because a lot of people say it's really fun.
Hmm.
There's a lot of content and like artists and
Hmm.
programming, and I did hear about the mess of the cosplay contests. I hope that it
Hmm.
gets better, or maybe I hope that it doesn't because maybe one year I'll do it and I get to see it all. I live for chaos sometimes. I do love a moment where we go to a contest and it's just there's helter skelter, things are like
Hmm.
in flames, and it's kind of just a little. I feel bad for the contestants but sometimes it's a little bit fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's the chaotic Aries in me, I guess.
I do want to compete there someday. I've thought about it, but I'm like, is it worth it? I don't know.
We
We'll
can do it
see.
together in
We
something, and then we can
could.
hold hands and like be there in the dumpster, being this is fine while everything's on
I
fire around us.
think it's a good
Um,
plan.
I think for me it was a new one. So yours was Momocon new. Mine DreamHack was new.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I didn't get
yeah,
to go to that one because it was no, it wasn't overlapping Acon this year because we
it
didn't
was
have
it
Acon.
was right after Momocon, I think.
That's why I didn't go.
Um, Yeah, and like I will say, for all that led up to it, with all of the weirdness around like the badges and the ambassador quote unquote thing that was going on and all of that. The execution of the event itself and like the day of competing was really really nice because they're one of the cons that gives badges to the contestants that get into their cosplay contest,
Mhm.
and those badges include you and a handler, and they
Oh,
are good the
wow.
whole weekend. And that convention, while the Kay Bailey Convention Center is a little bit undesirable of a location if you're not staying at the Omni, it was a really well run, well organized event. It was really cool. The contest was really well run. The prizes, well, they were good prizes. It took me a little bit to get my check. The check
Mhm.
didn't clear right when I would thought it would have, but it was a well run event. The coordinators were so lovely. It was really cool. There were cosplayers there that I had never seen before. One flew in from like Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, it was cool. Um, so yeah, that was DreamHack was right after.
Mhm.
Did you? What other ones did
Trying
you
to
go to
remember.
before A Fest?
Uh, I know they say it weirdly. Just checking my Instagram to remind myself. Bacon? Bacon?
Bacon,
Bacon? Bacon? It's the one I
bacon.
competed at. Yeah, bacon. It's spelled like bacon. I think it's Bacon, but it's held like right by Hobby Airport in
Oh,
Houston.
live the
Yeah,
best.
it's it's an interesting location, but it was actually a really fun small con, and the coordinator is part of like the local cosplay community for the contest, and you could
Oh,
really
do I know
tell that.
them?
I don't Astrolens,
Oh no. Okay, keep
I think
going.
is their username. They're super sweet. I met them for the first time there, and they were really nice. But they put on a really great show, and it was cool to get to support like a local convention. They're really trying to bring in more like cosplayers for their contest, and they actually bring back winners as guests, which I think is a cool little way to like give a secondary prize to your contest. That
Oh
because
yeah, so
they,
does DreamHack. I forgot about that.
yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's like the best in show is $500, which is nice for that size of a convention. And they treated us really well. And then they bring in their winners as guests. So have like a qualified panel, which is really nice. But overall,
Allegedly.
overall, it was a really fun con. And I, I guess I might be there next year. We'll see.
Based on that, seems like you will
Yeah.
be landing on the landing strip.
The only sad thing
Planes
though was
overhead.
the stage. The contest was in just a normal like panel room, and there was still a stage. But then like we were on the stage, and so many cosplayers had issues if they have big cosplays, or like me with my 5'10", however big. It's not that big. I think it's like 5 feet for this one. But my rifle, I couldn't pose with it in a lot of the poses I wanted because I was hitting the ceiling because it was so short. So I just had to kind of walk across the stage and hold it like this the whole time. Like
You want to know my
I couldn't put
advice?
it over my shoulder.
Oh my god. My advice for BotCon: have the convention in a warehouse and don't have a stage, because then you don't have to worry about any of those problems because there's
Yeah.
nothing to hit.
But
You
yeah,
won't be hitting
overall
people, that's for sure.
it was really fun. I like going to it. It's another one of the ones that's like 30 minutes from my house, so why not?
Okay. And then of course there was like oh my god, Anime
Delta?
Expo. There's a whole video
Oh
on
yeah.
that I did. You
Hmm.
went to Delta.
Yeah.
We did A Fest,
Yes.
which was lovely.
Hmm.
Lovely time.
Rip A Fest,
Um
but it was very fun.
it was good.
Hmm.
San Japan. Colossal
Yes.
Con.
Yes, Colossal was fun. That was my first time ever going to Colossal.
Same.
Hmm.
I went because I won free tickets at Anime Frontier.
Oh, I had one the previous year, but we didn't end up going because hotels were still so expensive. That was like kind of hard to justify,
Did you
even with
win
the
the
free
same way that I
badges.
did, where like you literally
The wheel?
like took a, well, kind of, but they had a wheel set up in the dealer's room, but you went up and they're like, "Oh, like you can spin the wheel, but if you don't get the free badge, you can just go and find a cosplayer and take a selfie with them, and then we'll give you a free badge."
No, the year before it was just a wheel and you just spun it, and both my partner and I got a free badge.
No, it
So
was like,
yeah.
take a selfie with a random cosplayer and then show us their selfie, and then we'll give you a free badge. And I was like, Oh, we're just giving these away, I guess.
That's
So
crazy.
I sure enough, I went and found a cosplayer, and I went and I was like, here we go. Got my free badge.
Mhm.
Uh, but this, yeah, Colossal Con, the water park was fun.
Mhm. The rave was
The con
fun. I liked getting to use the water park without children there.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then San Japan, obviously a fabulous time as always. Like,
Mhm.
so I mean, your San Japan was a little chaotic, like running all around town, like ingesting raw chicken, like 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 flying back and forth the sugar factory, and I was just like, where is this girl going? Your San Japan
Yeah.
was a little wild.
I feel like I just saw you in passing till like Sunday evening.
Sunday evening,
Mhm.
when we went to the tiki bar. No,
Mhm.
that was Monday evening. No, it was Sunday evening?
No, it was Sunday.
Sunday.
Monday
Yeah.
morning was the really good breakfast place. That will be a tradition now.
The good breakfast place that we went to,
Yes.
not the shit one that didn't even give me gravy on my biscuits the day before. Um, okay, all that being said, how much do you think a convention's identity is tied to its venue?
Ooh. I think a
Because
lot.
we've seen it
Yeah.
change, right?
Cause like
We've seen it Acon. We've seen Acon
yes.
change. We've seen well, I didn't see well, I've seen I mean, back when we used to go to Anime Matsuri, we saw that change from
Mhm.
other places to the George R. Brown. We've seen A Fest change. That was a big change.
Actually, last
Um
year was my first time going to A Fest. I never went to it before
oh.
then. But yeah, I did see the change in the venue. That was for me. I didn't have an emotional attachment to the old venue, but it was a big difference. Like different
How do you
vibes.
feel about like how much does a venue draw you to a convention, or how much do you associate convention identity with the venue itself?
I think it definitely makes a big impact, like for better or for worse, because there are things where like the Delta bathrooms. I know the men's bathrooms are not like this, but the Delta HCon bathrooms are like they have a special place in my heart because
What
they
happens
have
in those
a
bathrooms, girl?
they have a like waiting room, a little lobby, and like a vestibule before you go into the bathroom. And I feel I've met some of my closest friends in these in these little like liminal spaces between the hallway and the bathroom. Shout out to Steph and Yana by Moonlight Cosplay, and I don't think Yana cosplays anymore. But yeah,
So
it's
meet up next year in the
yeah,
vestibule between the girls' bathroom. Only
but
girls are allowed.
but I feel like you just develop like emotional attachments to certain venues and the experiences you have in them, and it can be really jarring when conventions move. Sometimes the moves are good and they really needed more space. Like I know Hallmat's moving because it got really crowded. I guess we'll see how that goes. But like Acon was really jarring for me whenever it went. I don't know the name of that hotel it used to be at that had the
The Hilton
beautiful
Anatole.
Yes, that had so many food options and stuff and beautiful photo shoot locations. Even though it had that one really long hallway of the dealer's hall that was like a convection oven. It was horrendous.
Hmm.
But like the Anatole was so good. Then when it moved to that like spaceship in Fort Worth, I and you had to go up like 4 stories to go to panel rooms. I could not.
Oh, you're talking about the Irving Convention
Or
Center. The
yeah.
Irving Convention Center that the coffin of conventions, if you will,
Yeah.
which is why WeebCon is knocking on the coffin
Mhm.
this upcoming year. That way they can secure their plot in the grave of Texas cons. They have it
Yeah.
already paid for.
I feel like
Um,
some venues just really lend themselves better. Like if you have food nearby, that makes a big difference because I hate having to
mhm.
drive to go get food at the end of the day. And just like the setup, if it's hard to find things, it's a pain. But
I think for me, it's the accessibility to the convention center via
mhm.
hotel or parking.
Yes.
Um, I think it is the accessibility of food options that are relatively inexpensive and convenient and walkable.
Mhm.
I think it's air conditioning. Um,
The bare
I think,
minimum.
yeah, yeah, the bare minimum. I think it is also, I mean, to be honest, I love a venue that has places to take photos because it's like if there's
Mhm.
nowhere to take photos, here's the thing: we're always going to get better photos of cosplay outside of a convention. It's just how it is. You have more time, you have more variables you can control, you have better location options. But the reality is, a lot of us are in costumes, and we are in costume at the convention. That's where we just got to get the photos. So if the venue even has something workable for photos, that
Mhm.
makes a huge difference too. Which is why, like, the Irving Convention Center, beyond being a spaceship that has 2 square feet of space to move around, is terrible because there's nowhere to take photos
Yeah.
at all. But and the opposite being like San Japan, which there's like a whole river walk with forested areas and little town
Mhm.
villages and a waterfall and like
And
even
like
the
the
indoor
church
spaces.
nearby too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or even
That
like the water
definitely.
gardens in Fort Worth, or like, yeah, it's I think the venue is such a huge piece of the pie. Look at the Gaylord. Like, do you think people would be showing up to KatsuCon if it wasn't in the Gaylord? No. What does that con have? Nothing.
Shh, I'm doing my single pilgrimage this year, then I will be satisfied.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, you deserve it, girl. You deserve your pilgrimage. But the okay, so it's a fun time, and the cosplays are great. But the cosplays are great because the venue is great, and it's really nice to take photos there. Not because they care about the programming at KatsuCon, because they don't, and we've demonstrated that time and time again. Don't do that contest, girl. You will
No,
waste your life in that room.
yeah. I heard that they didn't even like get anything last year. This is hearsay, but I don't know. The
Allegedly, they
prizes,
got nothing.
yeah. Well, I mean like a trophy, but I don't know. I heard it was
Oh,
not
better.
worth the time spent. And if I'm gonna go to Katsu, I'm not gonna spend time locked away and like prejudging and waiting
Mm-mm.
for the contest.
Mm-mm. Oh my god, I almost forgot. Well, no. I always like Tons of the Summer. Does Dark Realms count? We're not talking about that.
That sounded like a time.
It was just like, okay, so Fee cosplay on here, she talked about her experience at IkiCon, like the first or second IkiCon. And it was, I don't even know what year this was. I wasn't there. And it was in Austin, and it was like in a warehouse that had no air conditioning with
Yes.
fans blowing. And this was the closest thing I can imagine to that, was showing up to a warehouse that was unfinished and had not one panel room, barely an attendee. Their vendors were staring at each other. It was so bizarre because, like, okay, so we went there because I had to see it for myself. And there was like a horseshoe shape in the middle of this warehouse, and in the horseshoe shape were all of the voice actors that were somehow swindled into being there, and they were all staring at each other across this horseshoe. And you could only access the inside of this horseshoe through one little like entrance, and literally there was no one there. There were like no attendees. So like Mindy and I went to the front of that entrance and just looked at the horseshoe, and they all kind of just like looked at us like we were like in a tank of piranhas. And I literally was like, we can't enter this ring. We gotta go. And so we went and
My
got margaritas
god.
instead.
That's yeah. I actually guessed it at a con like that and it was horrible. Okay, it doesn't exist anymore. So I
What was
can
it?
talk about it. New Wave Expo in Corpus Christi.
What?
So
Who?
my lovely friend Hannah, Rose Quartz Royalty, was invited to guest and it was her first time guesting, so we were very excited and they approached me as well. And they didn't offer what I would normally require. They didn't offer lodging. They're like, you get 2 badges and a table. Have fun.
Did they cover
But
gas?
no.
Did they give
No.
you an Uber voucher?
No. But, Hannah, it was her first time guesting. We were very excited that she was going to do it because, foot in the door, foot in a really bad door to a bad room you don't want to go to. But
Was
the
it the
week
vestibule of the bathroom, or was it worse?
that is a beautiful, amazing place. This was the entrance to the ninth circle of hell. We drove like 5 hours to get there. It's a single day convention. So we pay for 2 nights of a hotel for this. And it is a warehouse, a singular warehouse. And they have like I kid you not, 20 cosplay guests. And so there's
Why is it always the empty warehouse cons that have 20 cosplay guests?
we're in an alley, and like I don't think I talked to anyone who was running this con the entire time except for when they made us appear on like the news at the very beginning to all be like, "Yay, convention!" And so we're all just in this alleyway, like 10 cosplayers on a side, and I think we were trading the same $20 around this entire day. Like I don't know if anyone made sales to like actual attendees because there was like a smattering of attendees, maybe a couple hundred. And
Oh, a couple hundred. That's generous compared to the one I went to. It had like literally three.
yeah, but like none of them were coming down our little like strip either. It was like the horseshoe. We all see someone, we're like like that's
It's like in Ratatouille when they open up the attic and all the rats just
we're like, please pay for our gas to get to this godforsaken land.
Oh my god! It's literally like the cell block 2 inmates along each side. Like,
It was so bad. And also, okay, wait, no, this is the worst part. So it goes like this is literally our call time was like 7 a.m. We're like, no, we will be there at 9. They kept us till 7 p.m. And then they're like, can you please come to the ice hockey game, the local like Corpus Christi? I don't know, I don't know the name of the team.
was that in the
They're like,
contract?
no, they're like, please, we need someone to come to give a speech. I have to compose myself.
No. They needed some weeaboo and a wig to go to the Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi has an ice hockey league. They're in the middle of like the Gulf Coast, Texas, and they needed a weeaboo and a wig to come and give a speech.
About what the speech is about makes it even worse. Anti-bullying.
Not the anti-bullying. Wait. Oh my god. Why? What?
I don't know.
Was it supposed to be like this kind of thing where it's like, well, I was bullied for being a weird kid and like being obsessed with anime, and so I'm here to talk about bullying because I was purely bullied.
I think so, and it was so funny because like the worst situation where you would anticipate the most intense bullying is taking someone in cosplay to a sports event to speak to
Oh, honey,
sports
open
fans.
season.
And so I made so many beautiful friends that weekend though. And lovely friends, Clarith Cosplay, ended up getting pulled into this. So they're in their little Lore Olympus cosplays, full face paint. At the ice hockey game to give the speech. I felt so bad for them. The coordinator came up to tell us to do that, and I'm like, no, simply no. I
Was
will
there a
be going
recording of this?
home.
I need this.
I don't think so. But
Oh, damn.
yeah, no, that was the most cursed experience I have ever had at a con. And it was just a warehouse like that. And Corpus,
Jesus.
no.
Okay, well, we've all had our share of cursed cons. I think at some point we'll need to do a game with like current and former guests of the Cosplay Crunch where we actually make a little bracketed list of the cursed conventions. We'll have a little like poll or something. That'll be cute. There's a lot. Texas has plenty to offer. I'll tell
Yeah,
you what.
we sure do.
And I've been told that other states aren't like this.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Texas. I think we just breed people who like see it as a way to make money somehow, which is crazy to me because I feel like that's not the business you want to go in to make money.
No, absolutely not. Okay. I have one hot topic. I thought
Okay.
of it. I recalled it because I wanted to talk about this before, and it'll be pretty quick because I am uninformed generally about what's happening here, but I did see the news article about this because it was on the news. WasabiCon in Florida. I believe there's more than one WasabiCon. They had their artist alley in a parking garage. Now, this might sound familiar because I'm pretty sure that the Anime Expo Artist Alley is also in a parking garage. However, this one was apparently a lot dirtier. It wasn't well ventilated. People were having to remove themselves allegedly from the parking garage multiple times because they couldn't breathe well. And none of the vendors even knew they were going to be in a parking garage prior to getting to the event. And so literally it got on the news in
Oh
like
my god.
Florida. I don't remember which city. Hold up, I'm gonna look this up real quick. We're gonna do some investigative journalism. It got on the news in Florida, and the people, the let me see, Wasabi Con Florida Artist Alley. Was it in Florida? Oh yeah, there's even a, am I just, no, it's in Jacksonville, Florida. I think that's
Of
where it
course it's
is.
in Jacksonville, the home of Bella.
No, am I
Yeah.
crazy? No, wait, maybe I'm lying. Oh my god, did I just make all this up? Hold
What?
up. I think I just made
I
I think I just made all this up. Wait,
I
wait,
have
wait,
not
wait,
heard
wait.
of this. Wait.
I'm spreading this information. Wait. Hold up. No, no, no. Oh, honey, wait. I'm Googling this. I'm not crazy. Artist. Oh my god. Art. Oh my god. Wait, wait. Have you not heard of this before?
No, I haven't. But also, I feel like since I graduated college and started working full time, I am so terminally not online because I have about the time every day to watch like
Oh,
3 people's stories.
no, okay, no, so here's the thing. It was Wasabi Con, but I didn't know there was a Wasabi Con in Portland.
Huh. Yeah.
The headline is a Portland Anime Con moved its artist alley to a parking garage 3 days before it opened. Wasabi Con, Portland's artist alley, was dubbed Dungeon Con after a
Oh
surprise
my
move
god.
to a hotel parking garage. And they have actually a con in Florida, Louisiana, and Oregon. So there's 3 of them. And this past year at the Hilton Portland downtown, they had their vendors and artists in poor conditions after the plan to use the parking garage went awry. And it was literally on the news. It was an underground parking garage for its 88 Artist Alley vendors. And they sent pictures that made it look all clean. And then when they got there, it was filthy. There were rats running around.
Not
There
the
were rats
rat.
inside. There were rats inside of their belongings, like inside of their like Artist Alley,
God.
like merchandise. There was dirt, tar, and grime everywhere. Literally, and they charge like $240 a table, which is pretty average for an artist alley, I do believe.
But not for a parking garage
But
artist
not for a
alley.
parking garage. It was in the hotel, same hotel as last year, but they were in the hotel, not in the parking garage. And so I just think it's crazy. And so what did they say? Wasabi Con was like, well, Anime Expo does it, so why can't we? And it's like, okay, well, to be fair, that's not great either. But also, at least that parking garage isn't rat ridden and covered in tar and soot.
Yeah. I think the rats is where I draw the line. It's like, it's
Can you
not good
imagine
either
going to the
way.
artist alley with
God.
rats running over your feet? Oh my
But the
god, I
sad thing is,
live.
I'm sure they didn't make that money back. Cause like, what attendee is gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go down to the rat infested artist alley. That sounds like a great use of my day. Not
Right. Well, and
me.
then 3 weeks later, the convention began to process the 88 artists a refund of $60, allegedly, 25% of the booth fee. I don't know how that was the deciding number of what they did, but yep.
Jeez. It's tough out here as an artist. These cons seem crazy. I have some friends who
It
do artist alleys, and talking to them about it, I'm just like, ooh.
No, literally, it was on KGW8, NBC News, local news. Um, Conditions at an anime convention made people sick. It was poorly ventilated. Vermin getting into their belongings, and it wasn't the Homestuckers either. It was the other vermin.
I feel called out.
Oh my
13-year-old me was
god.
vermin at the cons, though. I was insufferable.
Oh, the smell was overwhelming. There was no air conditioning.
My
This sounds
God.
literally awful. Well, look, I guess sometimes there is drama outside of Texas in terms of the conventions.
True. True.
Anyway, I don't even know what to say about that other than just bringing it up because I thought it was ridiculous. But
That sure is a thing that happened. Poor artists.
God, I know. Um, Last question before we end. Do you have any cosplay goals for the next year? I'm not going to ask you like in general cosplay
hmm
goals, but just for like the next year, anything that you're working towards or working on or something you want to
hmm
do or anything like that.
Yeah, so obviously I have some big projects. Like right now I'm working on Soul Fighter Gwen with my friend Anna AEI Cause. I never know how to say that as Samira. And want to get those done. But I just want to make more like medium-sized cosplays, honestly, that I can wear without feeling like I'm going to die 2 hours in. Because I feel like I've gotten this pattern over the last like 4 years or something where I just kept making like my favorite things are obviously the really big ones, and those are just impossible to wear. And so, honestly, my goal is to make smaller ones like the Neptune gown I'm working on, and like Charlie when she gets done. Probably make a more travel friendly version of the wig for whenever I wear her further away. But yeah, that's the big goal. But
I hardcore relate to that because I feel like for me, it's a lot of that too. It's like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I want more easy to wear, yet still well made and still nice
Yes.
cosplays that are just like fun and chill. And like, I mean, I know that Laios was basically like wearing a big trash can, but like for what it was worth, it was a much more chill costume to wear than say like, I don't know, Suga or something. So it was I definitely want to make more like simpler yet fun projects throughout the next year. I also have like one like um I'm working on like, well, I say working on, barely started, barely anything. Halson from Baldur's Gate 3, which is a big project, but I also definitely want to continue to work through like more fun and chill costumes because I feel like I've been really going the past like oh god, at this point maybe like 2 years, and I'm just like, okay, this it's starting to hit a little
Yeah.
bit of a I need to hit the easy button, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah, I've already started trying to kind of do it like with making Meryl, but then my too much gene kicks in, and I'm like, well, why buy denim shorts when I can make denim shorts for no reason?
That's the evil. That's the inner saboteur. But I mean, it's an experience, so it's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, it builds the fundamentals, as we say.
it does. Yeah.
Um, okay, well, I think that's everything I wanted to get through. So I'm gonna go
Okay,
to the outro of the first episode of season 2 of the Cosplay Crunch, and I'll come to you at the end. Okay,
sounds good.
cool. All right. Thank you for joining the first episode of season 2 of the Cosplay Crunch. If you would like to submit a question to one of our fantastic guests, please submit. I already messed it up and it's episode 1. Please email cosplaycrunchpod@gmail.com. Please rate us on your podcasting app of choice as it helps the show grow. You can follow us on Instagram at Cosplay Crunch Podcast for the latest news and announcements, on YouTube at the Cosplay Crunch Podcast, and at cosplaycrunch.com. Sammi, where can they find you online? And do you have any parting words for our listeners?
So I'm Stitch Crimes on basically everything, but I'm not very active on anything but Instagram. The other social medias do exist, though. And parting words, I think just if you're looking to get into competing or anything, just go for it. It's a really fun time, cool way to like stretch your skills, and please press your seams. That's my number one thing.
T iron. Sammy's saying over here, like, oh well, it's all fun and games, but iron your shit.
I will always say press your seams, and you make buttons that say that or something.
Very true.
Mhm.
All right. Well, with that sage word of advice, until next episode, we will see you later. Goodbye. The Cosplay Crunch podcast is hosted by Savage Cosplay, with post-production also by Savage Cosplay. Original theme music by Katie Fairbanks. Logo and graphic design by Owl and Coffee.